President Trump disputes the fact-checkers and leaders in both parties by insisting millions of people voted illegally, and now he wants a major investigation.
I pay taxes in North Carolina. I do the same thing here.
We'll show you how we found cases of illegal voting in Florida and examine Trump's claim that it happened on a massive scale last year, and reports that Trump's own senior advisor is registered to vote in 2 states. We'll also explain Trump's plan to wall off Mexico and how it could work and what it could cost.
We're about to repeal Obamacare without one Democratic vote.
Plus the Republican challenge, cutting healthcare costs without cutting healthcare.
Everybody's got to be covered. This is an un-Republican thing for me to say.
Universal healthcare.
I am going to take care of everybody.
Well, who pays for it?
The government's going to pay for it.
This is Money, Power, and Politics.
I just signed 2 executive orders that will save thousands of lives, millions of jobs, and billions of dollars. These 2 orders are part of an immigration reform we outlined during the campaign.
And with that, President Trump authorized building the wall. On top of that, ramped up border patrols. On top of that, added more detention space. And Marissa, that's just the start.
Yeah, he also plans to temporarily ban most refugees and suspend visas for people in Syria and 6 other countries. And he will cut funding for the so-called sanctuary cities in the U.S. As for building the wall on our southern border, Trump says construction should start within a matter of months.
And Trump and his administration says Mexico will eventually pay for that wall, but it will not be easy to collect. Here's what Mexico's president said on CNN.
There is no way that Mexico can pay a wall like that.
And Mexico's former president said the same thing, though he used stronger language.
I'm not going to pay for that wall.
But Trump is determined to make Mexico pay for this somehow. If not a direct reimbursement, then Congress and the Trump administration could cut off aid that Mexico is currently receiving from the U.S., or restrict the transfer of money from immigrants in the United States to Mexico. Either way, the administration could then make the case that if Mexico does not reimburse us, we could still make Mexico pay by cutting off money that would otherwise flow into that country.
He is doing everything he can to direct agencies and Congress to commence with that work as soon as possible.
And by stepping up border security and directing federal funds to building the wall, Trump is delivering on the issue that drove him to the top of Republican polls and took down Jeb Bush.
Yes, they broke the law, but it's not a felony.
Coming in as an illegal is an act of love. Remember that line?
Again, Trump is doing exactly what he said he'd do for the past year and a half. He took off by taking a hard-line stance on immigration after former party leaders like Mitt Romney angered the base by tying themselves in knots.
Those 12 million who've come here illegally should be given the opportunity to sign up to stay here.
They should be given no special pathway to citizenship or permanent residency.
Should be able to sign up for permanent residency.
They should not be allowed to stay in this country.
So Republicans found a way to lose 71% of the Latino vote and lose the trust of the conservative base that's been fuming about this since 1986.
I believe in the idea of amnesty for those who have put down roots and who have lived here, even though some time back they may have entered illegally.
Reagan signed off on amnesty for 3 million illegal immigrants, and conservatives say it was one of his biggest mistakes because he did not secure the border, and we had a flood of illegal immigrants. Then President George W. Bush took another run at amnesty. Then McCain, Rubio, and the Gang of 8 tried comprehensive reform. The party did not realize how much that turned off its base till Trump tuned in.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
At first, Jeb Bush and other establishment Republicans dismissed him as an angry old man.
Just angry all the time.
Then Trump made them remember how angry their base is with them, and it turned the race to sealing the border.
Border security.
Border security is critical.
I would secure the border.
Take care of this border.
And I will say the politics of it would be very, very different if a bunch of lawyers or bankers were crossing the Rio Grande.
We will build a wall. It will be a great wall. It will do what it's supposed to do. Keep illegal immigrants out.
And now, to bring Trump's vision to life, Republican leaders want to revive, complete, and fix a wall project that President George W. Bush started 11 years ago that stalled and failed for a number of reasons.
Secure Fence Act is part of our efforts to reform our immigration system. We have more to do.
Let's head down to Brownsville, Texas, where they built that wall, or at least part of it. Turns out they couldn't build it along the actual border because of treaties and flooding. So they built it north of the border, walling off American citizens from their own country, leaving them surrounded by drug smugglers.
They have their boats lined up along the river to bring people across.
At night?
Anytime. Day or night, it makes no difference here.
Charlie LaDuff traveled to South Texas for us last year to show us what went wrong.
We've had every dog poisoned. They poison the dogs so they won't bark.
And this golf club went bankrupt because, again, America walled it off from America.
It shouldn't be comical. It shouldn't be something to laugh at because, that was our money.
Meanwhile, drug runners and illegal immigrants still crossed because the wall had gaps and holes.
Didn't even slow them down,
Well, take a look at this. 2 suspected drug smugglers from Mexico showing just how easy it is to hop the border into the U.S. When they think that someone spots them, they climb back out.
But now President-elect Trump says his wall will be different.
We'll build the greatest wall.
And it's going to be a serious wall.
A big, beautiful, powerful wall. And nobody builds walls better than me, believe me.
So how does he start building it? Well, Trump plans to use existing Homeland Security funds to get this started, then ask Congress for more, maybe $8 billion to keep it going. And then beyond that, more and more, then get Mexico to pay up, as Trump explained on ABC News.
I'm just telling you, there will be a payment. It will be in a form, perhaps a complicated form. And you have to understand, what I'm doing is good for the United States. It's also going to be good for Mexico. We want to have a very stable, very solid Mexico.
Meanwhile, Republicans are still working on health care reform, and they don't all agree on exactly how to do it. Let's start with Health Secretary nominee Tom Price.
I would just convey to the Medicare population in this nation that they don't have reason to be concerned.
Tom Price told senior citizens they don't have to worry about their health care. But he could not give the same assurance to people who have coverage through Obamacare.
President Trump said he's working with you on a replacement plan for the ACA, which is nearly finished and will be revealed after your confirmation. Is that true?
It's true that he said that, yes. I've had conversations with the president about health care, yes.
Among other things, Republicans appear to be split over how to deal with Medicaid, that state-run health care for the poor that expanded in many states as Obamacare kicked in. Some Republicans want to cut costs, while others fear that would yank people off of Medicaid and pull the rug out from people who need help the most. And remember, President Trump said he wants everyone to have health care. Here's how he explained it on 60 Minutes a couple of months ago.
Everybody's got to be covered. This is an un-Republican thing for me to say.
Universal health care.
I am going to take care of everybody.
The uninsured person
right.
is going to be taken care of.
They're going to be taken care of.
How?
I would make a deal with existing hospitals to take care of people. And you know what? This is probably...
Make a deal. Who pays for it?
The government's going to pay for it.
Under Obamacare, the expansion of Medicaid gave health care to around 11 million people. And Republicans have to figure out how to take it away, or if they keep it, how to pay for it.
We're about to repeal Obamacare without one Democratic vote. And what we have after the repeal is Trump Care.
Yes or no, under the executive order, will you commit that no one will be worse off?
What I commit to, Senator, is working with you and every single member of Congress to make certain that we have the highest quality health care and that every single American has access to affordable coverage.
All right, coming up, we investigated voter fraud in Florida. We'll show you what we found and look into Trump's claim that millions of people vote illegally.
Well, here we go. The Dow Jones hit 20,000 for the first time. Trump supporters are calling it the Trump effect, based on Trump's plans to cut taxes, build roads, redo trade deals, and revive pipeline projects. Here we go.
Yeah, meanwhile, President Trump maintains his claim that there was widespread voter fraud during the presidential election. He says 3 to 5 million people voted illegally. To this day, he and his staff have not backed that up with evidence from last year.
No, they have cited some studies, though, from several years ago, a Pew study, for example, but Trump wants to find evidence from 2016. So the president tweeted this morning, "I will be asking for a major investigation into voter fraud, including those registered to vote in 2 states. Registered to vote in 2 states, describing that as a form of voter fraud, registered to vote in 2 states, as well as those who are illegal, any of those registered to vote and who are dead, and many for a long time. Depending on results, he will strengthen up voting procedures." Registered in 2 states. Who does that?
Yeah, well, speaking of voters registered in 2 states, President Trump's senior advisor, Steve Bannon, and his pick to run the Treasury Department, Steven Mnuchin, are both registered to vote in 2 states. The president's daughter, Tiffany Trump, is also registered in 2 states. Now, this doesn't mean that these 3 actually voted more than once in multiple states. That it's just that they registered in 2 different places.
Well, there you have it. And on the subject, seriously, we've investigated illegal voting and have found cases of it in Florida and here in Tampa Bay going back to 2012, not though to the scale Trump claims.
Here's a look at what we found and how the state responded.
When state lawmakers passed new voter laws and when Governor Scott ordered a voter purge, they said they were trying to snuff out fraud.
We also don't want people that don't have a right to vote to be voting.
But my colleague Mike Sinan and I worked on an investigation that revealed a problem those efforts would likely have missed. People voting in multiple states in the same election.
And I support my people in North Carolina, I support my people here.
That's Mike asking a voter in the Orlando area why he voted in Florida and North Carolina.
I pay taxes in North Carolina. I do the same thing here.
He said he didn't know you're not supposed to do that.
Well, I didn't know that.
As Mike knocked on doors in Orlando, I found 6 others in Hillsborough, 7 in Pinellas County who, according to public records, voted in Florida and North Carolina in 2012. And with public records provided by the Voter Integrity Project, our list grew to 149 people who appeared to have voted in Florida and North Carolina in the same election.
We were able to find 149 that we could stake our reputation on, turn them over to the authorities and say, you might want to investigate this.
We did that 2 years ago. The state's Division of Elections told us it launched a preliminary investigation and left it at that. But a year after our initial investigation, authorities in North Carolina did take action.
Finally, we get our first prosecution.
The district attorney in Rutherford County, North Carolina, sent me these records showing he had successfully prosecuted Pasco Parker from Pasco County. Records show he admitted to voting in 2012, not just in 2 states, but in 3, Florida and North Carolina and Tennessee. He got a suspended sentence, probation, and a fine, and his case may be just the start.
There'll be another one, another Florida, North Carolina one. And there are several more that we know that are in the pipeline between Florida and North Carolina. This is the first one, and finally it begins.
Now, the Department of State says it takes voter fraud very seriously, but Florida cannot fully participate in the multi-state cross-checks because of differences in public records laws. And Eric Shawn shows us how the same problem goes beyond Florida.
A 2012 Pew study found a staggering number of people registered in more than one state, 2.75 million, and 68,000 registered in 3 states. While others say voter fraud is extremely rare and the names of possible double voters are really just clerical errors or coincidences, the cases are shocking. In Wisconsin, Robert Monroe was sentenced to jail a few months ago after he was charged with 13 counts of election fraud. Prosecutors say he voted twice in the 2012 presidential race, first by absentee ballot in Shorewood, Wisconsin. Then, on Election Day, he drove 4 hours south to Lebanon, Indiana, where, using an Indiana driver's license, he voted in person. In Maryland, a Democratic candidate for Congress, Wendy Rosen, was caught. Party officials said she illegally voted twice in 2 states. In California, people voted twice in the presidential primary this past June, said the East Bay Times. In just 3 counties, Contra Costa, Alameda, and Santa Clara, 194 people voted twice, suggesting the abuse statewide might run into the thousands.
So yes, bottom line, there is in fact voter fraud. Those are just examples. There are others, but no mass voter fraud evidence from specifically 2016. Trump, though, wants to find that evidence because in fact he believes it did happen.
Well, back here in Florida, Governor Rick Scott rolled out his plan for $600 million in tax cuts. He wants a 10-day sales tax holiday for back-to-school shopping, plus a 3-day tax holiday for veterans, and a 9-day tax holiday for hurricane supplies. But the biggest part of his plan would give companies a tax break on commercial rent.
Okay, coming up, Mr. Trump takes his first trip as president, and protesters plan to follow him to the Republican treat in Philadelphia. All right, big day tomorrow. Every day's a big day. What am I saying? President Trump heads to Philadelphia tomorrow for a Republican retreat.
And that could kick off another wave of protests. Chris O'Connell shows us what to expect.
The historical marker outside of Lowe's Hotel in Center City says Ricketts Circus. But this week, a different circus comes to town, the media and protests that follow President Donald Trump. What kind of reception you think he'll get in Philly?
I don't think he'll get a very good one.
Secret Service vehicles arriving to Center City en masse. A block-long line of barriers now set up in preparation for what's to be expected large-scale protest demonstrating against President Trump.
If it's anything like what I saw on TV for his inauguration, I'm sure he'll be met with pickets, signs.
On Thursday, in his first trip outside of Washington since taking the Oval Office, President Trump is scheduled to speak to a group of Republican leaders inside Lowe's, but outside, Philadelphia police tell Fox 29 they have approved demonstration applications for a crowd of up to 3,000. And on Facebook, thousands already RSVP'd to at least 2 planned protests.
Does not surprise me. I might be one of them.
The public will not be allowed inside to hear Trump's speech, but protesters hope the president still hears their message. What do you think about him choosing Philly for his first trip?
I like it. I'm a proud Philadelphian.
Coming up, we'll look into Sean Spicer's long-running feud with none other than Dippin' Dots and show you how the ice cream company is trying to win him over.
Okay, Marissa, you've got to explain this feud that Sean Spicer, the White House press secretary, has with those delightful, tasty little beads, those frozen nitrogen
the
treats.
Ice cream,
what do you call them?
Dippin' Dots.
Dippin' Dots.
Dippin'
That's
Dots.
it. All right.
Yeah, so it started not recently, but a while ago. Let's go to the tweets. The first one he wrote was from, I believe, almost a decade ago. He said, Dippin' Dots is not the ice cream of the future.
Oh, no.
And then he goes on to say, it doesn't end there. I think I've said this before, but Dippin' Dots are not the ice cream of the future. Exactly.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the end of it.
No.
If Dippin' Dots was truly the ice cream of the future, they would have not run out of vanilla CC at Nationals. I'm guessing he was thinking vanilla ice cream at a Nationals game, so he was very sad about it.
Oh, dear. Wait a minute. Before we go to the sound, look, I just figured out what happened here. Okay, he had a run-in. He had a traumatic event. It's right here on social media. Bubblegum-flavored Dippin' Dots in the rhino enclosure at the National Zoo. He was traumatized by it, and he just never lived. I've just made that up.
No.
All right, what does the company have to say about that? Let's roll the sound.
Yeah.
Well, we love the satire around the conversation. I mean, having the headlines, Sean Spicer has a feud with Dippin' Dots is like Sean Spicer having a fight with the Easter Bunny. I mean, it's just funny, right?
What does that even mean? Fight with Easter
They
Bunny?
love the publicity, that's all we know. At least
all
that.
right. There is a website, by the way, where you can send Dippin' Dots to Sean Spicer, I discovered. I bet he's getting swamped as we speak. Folks, that's our show. We'll see you tomorrow night. Take care.